What's up? My name is Ken Dumbo, the MC with the sauce. Don't forget to subscribe to J. Cool.
Hi, Luginsani Zulu. You are the president of the Law Association of Zambia, the biggest group representing lawyers in the Republic of Zambia. Thank you very much for joining us here on Africa Thinks. What we want to find out is what is LAZ's reaction following the collapse of the much touted dialogue between the Oasis Forum, part of the civil society group that LAZ belongs to, and the government led by President Hakainde Hichilema. What is your reaction as president of the Law Association of Zambia?
Thank you for having me, Peter. Indeed, our reaction to the collapse of the dialogue, obviously, is that's disappointing. We had hoped that the dialogue would result in a change of heart on the part of government to see the importance of following the legal and procedural safeguard for amending the constitution. So the fact that the dialogue failed represents, unfortunately, differences in the way we view how the process should proceed. And it is on that basis that Oasis Forum, where we are members as the legal profession in this country, felt that the dialogue was no longer tenable, because without the withdrawal of Bill 7, which is currently in Parliament, without restarting the process afresh, which process must be holistic, must not be rushed, and must be supported by requisite safeguard, unfortunately, the result of the entire process will not be a legitimate amendment of the Constitution.
Luginsani, talking about legitimacy, supporters of the government say that the government is following legal proceedings, legal precedents by consulting widely with the population to amend the Constitution, which sections of which the Oasis Forum has propounded, including women representation in Parliament, and that you have preconceived idea without coming to the dialogue with no preconditions. That is what genuine dialogue is about, and that you are just playing politics. How do you respond to that?
Far from it, Peter. In a dialogue, there is no room for either government or Oasis Forum to compromise what is legally the foundation of any constitutional making. I was making a point just this morning that according to the Constitution, Article 79 has procedural safeguard that every constitutional making process must go through, which include: one, before any bill amending the Constitution is presented on the floor of the House, 30 days before it must be gazetted in a government gazette. And the second and third reading of this bill must always be supported by not less than 2/3 of the total number of the National Assembly. These are safeguards which cannot be compromised. The only difference is the additional safeguards have come in through the pronouncements of the Constitutional Court, which is the highest apex court on constitutional matters in the country. What the court has now demanded as a procedural safeguard for amendment of the Supreme Law of Zambia is that before the bill is even drafted, you must have a technical committee to drive the process. Once a technical committee has been appointed, the technical committee must invite submissions from the members of the public, as well as look at past records to frame the amendments. So the amendments that must be taken to the people must first of all come from the people. Once the proposals and the amendments are framed by the technical committee, then, according to the court, the committee must go to consult the people on these proposed amendments at district level, at provincial level, and at national level. The result of this process is the bill that then must be gazetted 30 days before it is introduced in Parliament. It is not up to Oasis Forum or government to compromise these safeguards because they're in the law. They are pronouncement of a court of law. But when government says, even if the terms of reference did not come from the people, the mere fact that the people have been consulted on them, it means we are okay. That's a fundamental difference. So yes, we can go to a dialogue table, but there are certain things that are beyond the government and Oasis Forum, which cannot be compromised.
So basically you are saying, Luginsani, that this process must be people-driven. Is that the case?
That's the case, and that's what the court was very emphatic in a judgment which is not so long ago, pronounced in the case of Celestine Mukandila and Munia Zulu versus Attorney General. Note that government must not have any input. According to the judgment, the government must, and state actors must be facilitators of a people-driven process. The fundamental problem is that government insists that the unilaterally drawn amendments which are contained in Bill 7 must merely be taken to the people, and the people must explain whether they like them or not. Yet the Constitutional Court said, before you even frame those, ask the people to generate what must be amended.
So, legally speaking, is the process being embarked on by the government legally sound by the Constitution as stipulated in the Constitution, or by the ruling of the Constitutional Court? Where does legality lie on this matter?
It is our position that the process that government is embarking on flouts express pronouncements and orders of the Constitutional Court. How? Notwithstanding the appointment of the technical committee, people were never given an opportunity to frame the amendments. Instead, the terms of reference are what are contained in Bill 7, which in that particular case, the court said was a nullity because they found that those same terms of condition, proposed amendments were initiated without the same input of the people. So we believe as LAZ and as Oasis Forum that they are not following the legal standards for pushing across the constitutional amendment process.
Following the collapse of the dialogue over this, what many Zambians say is a controversial Bill 7, where do things go from here? Because a technical committee, I understand, has been set up to move the process of the amendment forward in Parliament. So if this is an illegality, where does this leave the people of Zambia?
So yes, in fact, the technical committee, which went ahead to consult the people on the unilaterally drawn proposed amendments, where people were not given a chance to frame, concluded its work and handed the report to the Republican president yesterday. We understand that government wants to now take this report to Parliament. What's not clear is whether they will amend the current Bill 7, which is on the floor of the House, or they will introduce a new bill. But ultimately, without the procedural safeguards having been complied with, unfortunately, it means any ensuing product, whether Parliament will proceed to vote for this or not, will be legally questionable.
So, as the Law Society of Zambia, some of your critics are saying that as a body representing lawyers in the country, you should be leading the fight to have this stopped, since legally speaking, questions have been raised about it. The Constitutional Court has ruled over it, yet things are proceeding in spite of this effort by the government. What is your reaction to critics who say that LAZ has been too quiet, has been too lax, has not been taking the fight as it should on behalf of the people of Zambia?
To the contrary, Peter, in fact, the criticism is that maybe LAZ is being too vocal and seen as political. Why? Because some of the positions we take may align with voices from the opposition. But this is the role that LAZ always takes on matters of constitutional reform. It's in our mandate as the Law Association of Zambia to ensure that we are interested in a reform process which does not flout fundamental safeguards. What we have been doing is continuing to raise awareness around this topic, and also in partnership with the NGOCC, which is the overriding coalition of NGOs, gender NGOs, the EFZ, which is the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, the CCZ, which is the Council of Churches in Zambia, as well as the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops. We have been driving this process. So LAZ indeed has been actively engaging and taking leadership in this important constitutional reform agenda. And in fact, even as we speak, all of the parties that I've cited are also parties to a petition trying to get the court to also halt the process of amending the constitution in disregard of its earlier pronouncements.
Recently, you held a meeting with the president following calls for this bill, controversial as Zambians call it, to be dropped. You held a dialogue. It was broadcast on national media and other independent media organizations. How did it go? Because I understand that the Oasis Forum called for the process to begin in its entire form. The government, through Mr. Muitwa, the chief government spokesman, saying that you have preconceived ideas and that you are coming with preconditions and not necessarily having a genuine dialogue as dialogue is supposed to be. So where do things stand now, Mr. Luginsani?
What we have been categorical about is that as long as the process will respect these safeguards, Oasis Forum and LAZ is available to support a constitutional reform process that respects the foundations and the legal standards as pronounced by the courts of law. What we cannot do is to go into a dialogue to compromise these safeguards. Yes, we may be accused of going in with a preconceived mind, but our preconception is that we have no power to bend those legal safeguards. If the dialogue means can we do away with these safeguards, I'm sorry, it's not within our power, even if we wanted to. And in any event, that would be responsible for us to accept that we must bend the safeguards for purposes of progressing this process. So yes, the dialogue will not proceed, and we'll continue using all available means within the law to continue pressing on government to reconsider the stance they have taken on this constitutional reform process.
My question to you is, what do the people of Zambia say about this attempt to amend the constitution? Is there a groundswell of support for this measure to be made into law, signed by the president? Is there a popular support for this move by the government?
Yesterday, the State House was hosting a group of CSOs in support of Bill 7. Previously, they were hosting us who were against. So, insofar as government views the process, they think that there is enough support for the Bill 7. The challenge is that that support may be not guided, may be misguided, because if the procedural safeguards have not been complied with, to discuss the merits, whether you like the content or not, unfortunately, is missing the fundamental point. We must begin by all appreciating that the safeguards, the process, will ultimately protect the content. There are also additional challenges even with the content itself. Some of the things that are proposed in the Bill 7 include delimitation. Delimitation, which is to increase the number of constituencies countrywide, cannot be a discussion to be had without a delimitation report, which government has, but has refused to release to the members of the public. So on what basis are citizens interrogating this topic when the report, which is the basis of delimitation, has not been given to the people? So we don't believe that a content-based discussion is even prudent at this stage. We also believe that the timing, not that you can't amend the constitution in an election year, because these are election-centered amendments, consensus, even among political players, is critical if we must birth a process which is legitimate and holistic. But if you sideline other political players in amending the constitution, then especially that there is a lot of polarization across party lines as we draw closer to the election, that compromises the content discussion. So those are some of the challenges we have with the current process.
Following this controversial bill and subsequent dialogue that fizzled out, what is LAZ and subsequently the umbrella group Oasis Forum telling the people of Zambia about where things stand now and what they should expect from you?
What we're telling the people is, please continue to be interested in this constitutional reform process. Please continue urging government to reconsider the stance it has taken, because the ramification of an illegitimate constitutional process can be far-reaching. So all of us as citizens, let's use all available legal means to persuade government to reconsider its position. And that's what we are doing, and urging others to also take a stance in that direction.
What is LAZ's message to the people of Zambia and subsequently the government led by President Hakainde Hichilema following this bill move to make it a law that will eventually amend the constitution?
Procedural legal safeguards must not be considered to be hindrances to amending the constitution. They must be welcome as those important checks that assure, not today, not just tomorrow, but any time and regardless of whoever is in office, when you amend the constitution using procedural legal standards, you will always have a result you can bank on and which is legitimate and may not threaten our democracy. If you ignore safeguards, the constitutional safeguards, tomorrow another person in the name of amending the constitution will come up with a unilateral proposal to abolish, for example, the judiciary. And because there are so many people praising and singing that it makes sense to remove the courts of law because maybe they're disturbing executive function, the effect is that we compromised someday not to follow the procedural safeguards. So the procedural safeguards are as important as the content. So let's all be interested in ensuring, and we're not in a hurry, this is our law, we are the makers of it. Let's ensure that the safeguards we have put for ourselves are complied with. We will all be happy with the product.
Thank you very much, Luginsani Zulu, President of the Law Association of Zambia, for coming to share your thoughts with us here at Africa Thinks. We appreciate your time and we look forward to continuing this conversation. We'll bring you on again to come and talk about the processes leading up to what the people of Zambia want about whether to amend the constitution now or not. Thank you very much, Luginsani.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to JQ News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates on tech, politics, and everything in between. Until next time, stay cool.